Welcome to the podcast, All Things Good. I'm your host, Fred Fay. I'm here with Shannen. I met her from a friend of a friend, got to know her, and she's got some incredible stories about some good things that happen in her life. One thing I'm jealous of, Shannen, you just got back from Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Are you Irish?
I am Irish. My last name is Kennedy, so.
Oh, mine's Fay is an Irish name, but I found out I actually have less Irish in me than I thought. My kids have more than me, but I always wanted to go to Ireland.
Yeah.
So tell us, what got you to go there, and what was it like for you to go to Ireland?
Yeah, I love to travel, so it was an easy yes when my sister was like, hey, do you want to go on a trip with me? I'll pay for your plane ticket. It was a no-brainer at that point. So then we convinced our mom to come with us, and it was a lot of like running around, seeing like castles everywhere, and just the...
I so want to go see castles. I love that.
Yeah. There was one castle, the Blarney Castle. I don't know if you've heard of it. But at the top of it, you lay upside down like 100 feet up, and you have to kiss this specific stone. It's pretty cool.
Yes, I've heard of that, and maybe I'm a little germophobic because I don't know if I want to go kiss a stone that somebody else has kissed 100
Well,
times.
and legend has it that the local youths come and pee on it at night. So
Yeah, I don't know.
who knows? Who knows if that's true, but... when in Rome, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did that. But you've one thing I'd like to focus on is you've traveled elsewhere.
Yes.
Gone to Africa.
Yeah.
And you came back. I mean, it really changed you. You had some great experiences.
Yeah.
So talk about, what led up to you going, I think I'm going to be gone for a while.
Sure.
I'm going to go to Africa. Yeah, tell me about
Sure. Yeah. If
what's
you would have told me when I was a kid that I was going to have traveled as much as I did as an adult, like I would be so shocked by that. But I grew up in Port Orchard. I'm one of 8 kids. And I didn't have any desire to travel. I'm a homebody. I love being home. And I went on a trip in high school and didn't really I went to the Dominican Republic on a missions trip with my youth group and just didn't love being outside of my comfortability and my norm. And so I came home and was planning to go to college, and I had a mentor at the time, and she told me about this girl, Katie Davis, who had moved to Uganda right after high school and adopted 13 kids. And she gave me this book that she wrote, and I was kind of underwhelmed. I'm not really going to go anywhere else.
It reminds me, there was a song a while ago, Please Don't Send Me to Africa.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us Christians here, it's we want to change the world, but don't send me to Africa. And we have this idea of what Africa may or may not be. So that was the first encounter about Uganda.
Yep. Yeah. And then we had a African choir, Watoto. It's like a big traveling choir, come sing, and I enjoyed it, but there wasn't really anything special about it. But then I started noticing all of these things about Africa popping up in my life. I don't know if somebody was whispering at my phone, but ads on my Facebook started coming up of travel to Africa and volunteer and organizations. And I was like, well, maybe I should start researching it. So I did. I started researching it and kind of planned out what it would look like to go. And I was trying to convince myself that I wanted to go, but I also didn't want to go. It was this really weird, restless feeling. And I was I don't even know how to tell my parents. I'm not even 18, and I'm planning to move to the other side of the world with no experience.
Not just visit, move.
Correct, yeah.
It's a whole different paradigm.
Definitely, yeah. So I presented it, and I was like, hey, I'm moving to Africa for 2 years. And they kind of laughed because they were like, you're kind of a dreamer. You're not going to follow through with it. And I was like, no, I did all the research. I'm going. And my mom was like, what about a month? And then you can come home and go to college. And I was like, no, I need to go. So, I sent out some messages to some friends and got enough money to go for 6 months. And on a plane I went with a couple suitcases.
Were your parents pretty nervous about the whole thing?
Definitely. Definitely they were. At one point I was like, can you just not tell me if you're upset or disappointed in me going, because I have to go. And I know you're scared, and don't you think I'm also a little scared, but I feel like I have to go. And so...
But are you an adventurous person in general?
I was the most shy kid. I would cry at sleepovers. I did not go anywhere but home. So it was kind of shocking for everyone.
Okay, so you went on a plane and not knowing what you were going to expect.
Yeah.
Had some connections in Uganda, though.
No, I actually had just found this organization online, and
And you had to get their approval, or how did that work?
yeah, I filled out an application,
That was it.
and I met up with the founder of the organization in California. I flew down and met him and his wife, and they were like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you volunteer." And that looked like just helping out at orphanages and speaking at schools, and yeah, going around to like their sponsored kids and writing letters with them. And so it was just kind of an easy transition to like getting there.
So I imagine, I think about if I was going to go, got my suitcase in my hand, I'm stepping off of the plane, I've never been here, don't know anybody. And was there anybody there to greet you?
Yeah, they said there's going to be somebody there with your name on a piece of paper, and you just go with them. And I was like, all right, sounds
There
good.
we go.
So I got off the plane, and I was like, wow, I'm in Africa is the first thing out of my mouth. And I found a lady named Nina with my name scribbled onto this piece of paper. And I was like, I guess I'm supposed to go with you. And got in a van with them and just like kind of hoped and prayed they were going to take me to the right place.
What was the first couple months like for you there?
Yeah, the first couple months were, I think, just enamoring. Like, it was just so, I felt so called to be there that I just was like, wow, this is amazing. Going to a baby's home and doing laundry is amazing. Like, going to these schools and getting to know some of the kids is amazing. Like, it just, everything felt so awesome and new, and there's just such a joy and such a magnetism about the culture and the people that, you know, it just was so interesting to see, like, wow, these people can see so much good even though they don't have very much.
The people there, what impressed you about the people that may be a little different than here in the U.S.? What did you experience about Ugandans?
Yeah, I felt like Ugandans were just so happy to be so much more relational than people here in the States. You know, I think media and our cell phones can keep us so isolated here that I think the lack of access to a lot of things just creates this like vulnerability and ability to be relational. And so I think just that joy, there was something kind of intoxicating about that I was like, okay, I want whatever it is you have, this hope and this like simplistic happis is.
Yeah, the only experience, I have Africa. I've been to Cape Town a couple times, and so that's very different. Sometimes we in the U.S. think every country in Africa is the same, and it isn't. They're all different. But I remember meeting African Christians, specifically there was extreme poverty. There was like whole cities, like tent cities, like you talk about homelessness, there's hundreds of thousands of people. And then there was a very affluent, movie stars have their homes there.
Yeah.
But with the people that didn't have much, that were Christians, their joy and exuberance was so impressive. I remember leaving a church service and go, I don't think I'm a Christian, because they're so in love with Jesus, and that's all they have is Jesus. It's and they were very kind and relational, and wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you fell in love with the people, and then what did you start doing?
Yeah. So, the organization I was working with, we did a lot of just like helping. So we helped, like I said, at schools, did like teaching and feeding programs, and then we had about 40 acres out in a village where we were doing like a community like reset or outreach kind of thing, where we had a women empowerment program, a cattle training, like business almost, and just resource center. It was it became a hub for reaching the community, and it kind of changed the trajectory of what was happening in this village area, and so it was really cool to be a part of that. But then I was like, all right, I think it's time to go home. So I packed my bags and came home, and I was like, I'm ready to go to college. I'm ready to kind of focus in on
Africa was done.
Yeah, I was like, I did that good thing, and I went and I helped people and felt really good about myself and what I accomplished there. And I think my focus was so much on like, okay, I'm gonna go do all this stuff, and then I'm gonna come
I'm going to
home.
feel good about me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna come home and like then I'm gonna start my life.
Okay.
And I wasn't home for more than like a month before I was like, I'm going back to Africa. There's something about the people and something that is just drawing me there that I don't feel like my time is done there. So I hopped on a plane and went back to the organization, and I was with them for another year and a half, like helping kind of liaison between other volunteers coming. And until I kind of stumbled upon this city center where we found a bunch of kids living in a shipping container at night. And then during the day, they would sniff jet fuel to get high. And that I was like, something needs to change here.
Why would they sniff jet fuel?
Yeah.
And of course, then they got it from somewhere.
Yeah, a lot of the kids that ended up in this city center slum area came they were either runaways because they were being abused at home, or their families or parents didn't have the finances to provide for them, and so they would put them on a bus. I remember one story, an 11-year-old came to me and was like, I was put on a bus by my mom. She said an uncle was going to pick me up at the bus depot. He got to the city center, and there was no uncle, and there never was any uncle that lived in the city center. So he lived under the buses for quite a while before the drivers were like, hey, it's not really safe for you to be living under here. Yeah. That's how he ended up living in this area. And so they just kind of they were there because they wanted to either get finances or find food, being in a big city. So
the jet fuel is just to numb the pain of everything.
Yeah. A lot of them told us that they just want to cope with like not eating or being lonely or isolated like that they just were like, we have nothing, so this is our way to feel nothing. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lady that would, for like, I think it was like 15 cents, the exchange rate, 15 cents to dip like a handkerchief or fill a bottle just like a few centimeters thick, and then they would just sniff that all day.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have broke your heart. I mean, did you go away like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do?
I was devastated. So my friend and I, my Ugandan friend and I were like, okay, what can we do to change this? Like, we need to do a lot more research about, what our options are here. So we started bringing in like monthly showers and clothes and soap and haircuts and food, just to kind of figure out, okay, where are these kids coming from? It was a lot of just researching, okay, where are they coming from and what do they need? What would be the safest thing for them? So through those outreaches, we just heard a lot of stories, a lot of heartbreaking stories of how kids ended up here. And a lot of sad stories of, even the police, if something were to happen to them, even the police, they were pretty brutal and would take whatever they had in their pockets at night when they were sleeping and just leave them with nothing. So
what good came out of it for you and for being, being there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The good that came out for me, it was just perspective, that, a lot of these kids, they have horrible stories, but, and they are coping with substance, but a lot of them were so happy. They were just so happy to meet us and, spend time with us and share their stories. Some good that came from it. Another lady from the States, she started a group home and had the kids living there and had kind of an influx of kids coming and going, but kind of gave them a safe place to stay at the end of the day. And we did try to offer to pay that lady off who was selling the jet fuel. She refused payment, but we just kept giving kids other options of like, hey, we'll pay for your school fees to like go to school and to be in this home, just to kind of give them an escape from that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you got involved with those kids. That's pretty hard.
Yeah.
But then you got involved with other people as well, did you?
Yeah. So from there, we decided, okay, we want to buy some property to build like a resource center, a place where kids can learn English, learn computer skills, learn conversational, just basic skills. And so we knew, Uganda is very relational. And so we knew that in order to do that, we would have to like meet people where they're at and kind of be consistent. And so we found 4 or 5 different slum areas across Uganda and would revisit them regularly. Our biggest outreach was at Christmas. We called it Christmas on the Streets, and we would do like kind of a takeover in all these slum areas where we would have upwards of like 2,000 kids coming for a meal and hearing stories about Jesus and getting food, getting clothes, getting and extra stuff to take home for their families, and just kind of gaining the trust of like local slum areas. But the impact was great because it was not only for the kids that we were seeing, but it was for the other youth in the country. I think a lot of the times Ugandans will, we view them and we're like, we want to come help you. But I think it gave the young people 15 to 30 this responsibility of like, hey, if you have something to give as well. And so we just saw this change of like these young people bringing clothes that they don't use anymore or donating something small, whatever they could, to help other kids that were less fortunate than them. And it kind of ripple affected into other areas. And so I think that was a huge impact for the young people of Uganda.
Yeah, I had an African pastor tell me, don't send us your money anymore because it comes with strings attached.
Yeah.
Instead, support us, buy our products, help empower us. We saw a lot of NGOs, a lot of small businesses that were started by people and that didn't have much, but they were doing fine. They were empowered to do something to help themselves. And you were kind of doing that as well. You were kind of helping these young people to take ownership of their own life and go forward.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy how it unfolded because at the time I was 19 years old, starting a nonprofit in a third world country. I had no idea what I was doing. And so it was just one step at a time. But it was just the people that I would meet, things would just unfold naturally by itself. And the team that was built there just were awesome. We even had like local musicians and politicians coming to our outreaches because there was so much talk about what is Christmas on the Streets doing, what is the Outflow, which was our nonprofit, what are they doing right now, and just I think the attention that got covered just kind of changed the trajectory of those slum areas and how people are still there doing those things. People are still, the impact is great. Right. So yeah.
Anything else you did while you were in Uganda with some of the people there?
Yeah, there's. I mean,
I know you got lots of stories.
I know that it's just such a broad thing. Yeah. One story that's really cool is there was a young girl who was being abused within her home and abused within her area that she lived, and she kind of ran away, and she was hiding and living in this boys' dormitory. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. And she, just didn't have really anything going for her. And the nonprofit found her and, started paying for her school fees, got her through high school. And then I had the joy of getting to see her go to college. Wow. And they, lots of times in Uganda, they don't ever find the people that, are doing the abusing, but they found her abuser. And so she got to go to court, and she is now a college graduate and is, has a job, and she's making money. And it's just so cool to see, the impact that was there. Another story is there's a young gal named Juliet who she just saw us walking on the street one day, and she just introduced herself to us and asked us what we were doing in the area, and we told her, and we asked her what she was doing for work, and she said she worked at a hotel, and we didn't really know what that meant. It turned out that the hotel was a brothel. Oh. And we got to go in and pay for, there's probably 30 women living in this brothel that would be locked in there. And we got to pay for their time and do a lot of training, ended up teaching them how to make jewelry, and would sell that jewelry to local craft stores and help them have a little income to get out of that. There was one gal, Juliet, who that same gal moved into a place with her daughter, and just the impact of, training them to then help themselves again. And so
when I'm hearing you, I hear some brokenheartedness because the story isn't all wrapped up in a nice bow and everything's solved.
Yeah.
So you left, and there's still a lot of problems, and some things didn't continue that you wanted to see.
Yes.
And so sort of heartache there.
Yeah.
But there was also this sense of hope and perspective that you talked about that changed you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what changed you?
Yeah.
First you went and it's like, I'm going to feel good about myself
Yes.
for what I'm doing. But then the second time you went, what was the difference?
Yeah, the difference was realizing like the way that we live here in the States is just so different. And I think living in Uganda and meeting the people, I feel like my life has been changed. I feel like my ability to meet the needs of those around me and my just awareness of the brokenness happening in the lives of the people that I bump elbows with every day is great. And I think living there and learning the culture there, not fully, you can never fully learn it, but I think being there helped me realize like life is not all about me, and there is so much joy that comes from meeting the needs of those around you. And the way that I love people here now today is definitely because of my time there, and the impact is great. Like I said, there are young people now that in Uganda that have a heart to help those around them, and so that is going to continue on no matter what. So
yeah, I think sometimes we have a subtle arrogance about us that we're going to go help them, those people, whether it's people in our country, in our cities, we're going to go help the down and outers, the isolated, whoever.
Yeah.
And we go to another country, we're going to go help them, and we're going to teach them, and then we come away with they taught us.
yeah.
Out of their brokenness, they taught us because they are no different. We have some privileges here, but they're real people.
Yeah.
And when you get to know them, your hearts are I feel like your heart is engendered to them, and the people that I have privilege to circle with, and I think I have a pretty easy life compared to it. But I think they have some, especially about relationships.
Yeah.
About how important relationships are. I know I'm pretty good by myself, and the importance of having connections and people is what what's carrying us to be healthy, where the divisiveness around us is causing us to be unhealthy. And so what I'm learning from you is the value of just being with people, listening first, seeing what you can do, and mutually you're doing some things.
Yeah. The takeaway is definitely what is your sphere of influence? We all have a sphere of influence. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to Africa to be meeting the needs of people. Yeah. And so just to recognize who is in your circle, who is in that sphere, that you can make it the difference in a life. Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here today,
Absolutely.
Shannen. I really got to get to know you a little bit and your story. I thank you for doing that. I think we've learned some good things today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.